Now, I think it's safe to say that we could all agree here that 2024 is going to be a very challenging year for Disney, given that it's going to be very barren/empty to begin with their film releases, especially for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, being that Deadpool 3 is the only and singular release for the MCU by Marvel Studios, by Kevin Feige, and the creatives behind this film that are actually meeting a lot of challenges with the Disney heads. We have a lot to talk about Ryan Reynolds and his stance against Disney, and what's happening in return from the Disney heads against Deadpool 3, as creative differences are indeed rising. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now look, we know that Ryan Reynolds views Deadpool 3 as his baby. This is something that he has been trying to get out there for years, ever since Deadpool 2, which I know a lot of fans out there felt that Deadpool 2 was not as good as the first film. I will definitely go to say that I do agree with that. However, when we look at the third film, if they can't make it better than the second one, that's when you know you have a very big problem. And already they are pulling out on various pieces of footage from this film. They're watering down the movie. Bob Iger and those high up at Disney, in the wake of the writer's strike and the overall actor's strike, SAG and all, have been inserting DEI/ESG nonsense into this movie here and there. Maybe not as extreme as things out there like, the recent movies that Disney has been releasing, but they are trickling it into Deadpool 3 after all the strikes have been resolved. Now, what's interesting about this ongoing drama between Ryan Reynolds, the creatives behind Deadpool 3, and Disney is that given that there are creative differences happening between both Reynolds and the Disney heads, rising and only getting worse for the entire creatives behind this feature, one major development has to do with how Ryan is actually taking serious action against those like Bob Iger and Kevin Feige at Marvel Studios, a part of Disney. As it turns out, one significant update to this ongoing drama is that after Disney pushed to delete several scenes from the film that they found to be overly offensive for the feature, and demanding alterations to be made for the film before filming ends in early 2024, one big push/demand that Ryan is now doing against Disney is that he is refusing to take part in extra features and behind-the-scenes content to be filmed for Deadpool 3, along with PR at certain locations throughout the world for the film, unless Disney meets his needs for the movie to be developed properly. In addition to this, Ryan is also refusing to take part in certain interviews that Disney is setting up already for PR in 2024 via The View, Jimmy Kimmel Live, and ABC News. Surprisingly, Reynolds is actually taking it to the point that he actually made a recent remote meeting with the Disney heads that took place between, of course, those like the board of directors and Bob Iger and the creatives behind Deadpool 3, that Ryan is now willing to drop out of the world premiere of the film unless his demands are met to make the film that the fans actually have wanted for a very long time. This comes in the wake of Disney dropping, by the way, numerous cameos that were to be filmed for the third act, along with Disney deleting an entire scene that mocked both Bob Iger and the board and Disney World in Orlando. Though the parody of Disney was cancelled by, of course, them, and stripped from the writers, the parody of 20th Century Fox remains at the tail end of principal photography. Now, Reynolds is also already demanding Disney to elongate the principal photography phase until at least February or March as opposed to January. However, this may result in a slight delay if this is pursued. With Reynolds also now ready to take part in another meeting with the Disney heads about the creative differences by the end of this month, this film also faces a potential delay until the fall of 2024, as opposed to July if these struggles continue into the new year. Now guys, before I get to the big conclusion about this just goes to show you that anything Disney touches becomes either flawed or damaged in some way, shape, or form, even if it starts out fresh and starts out pretty, doable when it comes to the principal photography, phase and post-production. Eventually everything begins to fall apart. I mean, look at what happened with Captain America 4. Massive reshoots are being, of course, set up as we speak because of failed test screenings that have actually been reportedly horrible, by the way. And similar scenarios have also happened with past films throughout 2023. Now, we know that, of course, films out there like the Marvels being one of the big ones, and even the up-and-coming 2025 Snow White film is also something that has failed at several, test footage screenings by the Disney executives. Now, what's interesting about this stance that Ryan Reynolds, these ultimatums that he is actually making against Disney, is he is now willing to drop many PR moves around the globe. So that basically means him going on less PR tours, going to less events around the world to promote Deadpool 3. In addition to that, he is willing to drop out of the world premiere, a very important actual appearance by Ryan Reynolds that would definitely serve as a big way to kind of promote the film. So you can see the struggles that are rising out of these creative differences. And though Ryan has been happy with this movie, for the most part, with the first and second act, the third act is a big mess and a disaster at this point in time. And I don't think it's going to help anybody. I don't think it's going to help Hugh Jackman. I don't think it's going to help the writers Rhett, Reese, and Paul Wernick. It's just not looking good for everybody at this point, and it's also not looking good for Disney's image at all anymore. Now, this film also, of course, is going through a rough time. Now, given that Reynolds was very frustrated also with Disney tightening their budgeting limitations for newly shot footage following both the strikes of course, everything happened with SAG and WGA, which has been wreaking havoc on this film with the after effects. And though Ryan's ultimatums may or may not make Disney cave, these tensions are set to continue until one side agrees with the other eventually. Writers Rhett, Reese, and Paul Wernick are already siding and partnering with Ryan Reynolds on these difficulties that they are and have been having with Disney's Bob Iger and the rest of those high up at the company. Now look, here's the thing about Deadpool 3. There's a lot of fans out there that are just crossing their fingers that Disney doesn't screw this film up for 2024. And look, I will admit that I have remained very much hopeful that maybe, and just maybe, this would be the only feature by Disney that could very well make a good chunk of change in 2024 and kind of bring Ryan Reynolds on a good path. Now, what's really quite frightening for Ryan as a creator and as a writer especially is that this is definitely going to stick with him for the years to come if it does end up being yet another disaster like the Marvels or Wish. Now granted, I still believe that this movie could very well make a good amount of money, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good film at the end of the day. Are they going to get repeat viewings? Are they going to get repeat ticket sales, etc.? That's a major question, right? That's a real telltale if the movie's good or bad. So overall, I would really love to hear all of you chime in below in the comments on your overall opinion on this whole situation happening behind closed doors. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.